Good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to wait to see if anybody joins us before we get started. Let's see. We're ready to do this. Are you ready?
We're ready.
Just got to wait for some people to join us. Let's see. It might take them a little bit to know that we're online.
Where does it say that? That we're
We got one viewer. Let's see. Two new viewers. Okay. You want to
give them a minute. Let's go ahead and start.
All right, we'll do that. Right now, we don't have anybody on there. We're just waiting.
Well, a lot of viewers now.
Yep. All right, you ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm Marita, and this is Tim O'Leary. He has a PhD, MBA. He is a investor, builder, broker, and he has a lot of properties that he's invested in and runs, and we would like to know how he got started in it. Tim, how did you get started in real estate investment?
That's a great introduction. Hey, everybody. Our first Facebook Live, we're kind of excited about it. We're not going to be able to do a whole course in real estate today in this 15 minutes or so, but I think we're going to be able to give you some good insights, introductions, maybe 10 minutes of some good material, maybe to get you started, and then we'll put together some courses and kind of break into the details if you're interested, and we'll open up for some questions. I got started, 10 or 15 years, well, I'm going to say I got started probably 30 years ago with my dad. He was always taking me out and working on houses and apartment buildings, and he owns lots of properties himself down in Peoria, and just kind of put that seed in me, and my family, and always into real estate. He's always saying buy land and buy dirt. And I don't know, years after college, working in nuclear power plants, I was teaching down at Notre Dame and had some investors came and talked at my classes, and they were pretty insightful. You know, after working lots of years for big companies, working and putting away 401ks and thinking we were in pretty good shape, we were always taught to have a good job and have a 401k and pay off your house and then try to retire. And then when retirement comes, you're just hoping that the real estate market's at its peak like it is today, and it's not bottomed out, and you're just hoping your house held its value and you don't have to go put updates into the kitchen and the countertops and things like that. And you're just hoping you've got enough money set aside and that Social Security is still going to be there. And so I started hanging out with these investor types, and they told me, hey, Dr. O'Leary, you're doing pretty good for the average guy. I say, average guy? What's this average guy thing? You're doing pretty good. So what do they mean by that? Here I'm teaching at Notre Dame, working at a nuclear power plant, and they said, well, real investors, if you ever want to get into real investors, you got to start thinking about buckets. And buckets? Who thinks about buckets? I mean, these guys are multi-millionaire property owners, and here I've got a full day of teaching, and I got to get back to work after that, and home, and I think I'm as busy as anybody else. And he said, all right, but start thinking about things like stocks. You got stock budget, you have a bucket full of your paper assets, they call them. You got insurances and your cash reserves. You need to have buckets of that set up. You need to have buckets of precious metals set up. You need to have buckets of real estate set up. You need to have buckets of businesses set up. In other words, multiple streams of income, multiple streams of investments, multiple streams of an income, multiple streams of what you do. So you have different backgrounds and abilities in case one doesn't work and the other does, and you need to fall back on. And you got to focus on passive income. And this stuff is all new and fascinating to me, and that's really how I got started listening to these guys. I took a 180 and just moved right over to these guys, and they took me under their wing. And by the way, I was still teaching that day. They were getting in their plane and flying down to Florida to go visit their 300 unit, and then go out for lunch and play golf and fly back that night. And I said, who does that kind of stuff? And I'm trying to rush and grade 40 term papers and then get back to the power plant and work. And, that's how I got started. So, and that's how I look at the stock markets and it's a lot to talk about in one day. In the future, we'll kind of talk about how you start building these buckets and start breaking away from your job. And so you can have the ability to do whatever you want. You want to get up in the morning, you want to work. And at some point you'll be like these guys, you can fly out, you can go, vacations, you can do whatever you want to do. And once you start investing and you start making a little money, it's actually kind of fun. So.
Yeah. So what makes real estate investment good?
So when we talk about buckets, the nice part about real estate is, so stocks are great. I'm not a stocks guy, and I would tell you, I'd sadly tell you, I was probably lazy for 30 years. We just hired someone through our company, and they took care of our stock portfolio. So I went to work. As long as they took a person out and I didn't see what that was, I was happy. And as long as I retired and they told me I was fine, I was happy. And then you start getting older and you start thinking, man, there's just, I'm worried that I got enough in there. And Social Security really going to be there? And do I want to depend on that extra $1,500 a month when I'm 80? So real estate, we start talking about these buckets. You start building up your reserves, and once you got enough reserves, you start building up your real estate and your other modes of whatever works for you. There's so many different ways to make money in investing. We like real estate because you can control it. You can buy it, you can sell it, you can rent it, you can renovate it, and if you need the money now, you want to just buy 2 and set that as your plan to use that for paying off your kids' college. I knew an investor, and we tried this, and it worked well. I knew an investor who just wanted 2 duplexes, and they bought them when the kids were born. And as their kids, by the time they turned 15 and 16, they had almost paid them off. And then when they were paid off, they used that income all the way up to whenever and reinvested right back into the kids' college fund. And then when the kids graduated, they used that and sold them both. We sold them for them, sold them both, and paid for both kids' college. It was plenty, $100,000 each or whatever it was, and per unit, and plus the money that they stacked away over all those years was plenty. So
a lot of people think that you might need a lot of money to get started in investing. Do you really need to have a lot of money, or if you don't have a lot of money, how can you get started?
Well, that's a good question. So when we started, I would tell you it's like starting any kind of business. We put money away. We used some, we did the typical 10 or 20% down. We probably made the most mistakes on our first properties. They were decent properties, but we made the most mistakes. We bought the fancy doorknobs because we thought that was the thing to do. Anytime the tenants would call because they thought the air was too cool, we'd run down there and check it out and send a furnace guy. And so we learned a lot of things we needed to do and not needed to do. So we probably spent more than we needed to. That's where it comes in getting a good mentor that can kind of walk you through. You're still going to do these things. When I grew up, or when I was teaching at Notre Dame, they always said, we always taught our students Socrates. Socrates said you got to be a soldier before you can be a general. And what he meant by that, and the same thing my mentors just ingrained over and over again, you got to get out there and make the mistakes in order to get started and get moving. And so you're going to buy some, you're going to make some mistakes. Your first few years, you're probably not going to make a lot of money, but then it's just going to take off for you. Our first few years, I think we bought 10 or 12, and then the next year, I think we bought another 10 or 12, and at some point we had 40 some properties. But it gets to a point where it just takes off, and you're not using money, you're getting money at closings. We were bringing out every closing about 20 grand. And we would take that 20 grand, reinvest it, and we'd fill up our other buckets. Again, we'll talk about that another time. We might take 10 grand and buy more gold and silver. And there's certain kinds you want to get for your portfolio and set it aside. And the stuff that trades well, you want to make sure that your reserves and your family is taken care of, number one, first. Another thing I talk about is tithing. Make sure you're giving to your church and to the community. 10% tithing, you're going to get rewarded 100-fold. and it really does work that way. So getting started without a lot of money, it's very possible. You're probably going to learn the most when you get started, and it's probably going to be tight, just like starting a restaurant or any other business. But after that, if you stick it out, most people don't stick it out. Most people don't even jump in, and then they don't stick it out, have some bad experiences, and then they move on.
Speaking of those bad experiences, if you became a landlord, are there a lot of negative experiences?
That's a great question. You're not going to get through real estate without having some bad experience. And if you don't have some bad experiences, you're doing something wrong. And like I say, you're probably going to get most of them up front because you're learning. Just don't let it set you back. One of my old bosses was an admiral, Navy admiral at the nuclear plant, and he was an interesting guy. And he had this saying. He said, if you want to own a successful Pizza Hut, hang out with successful Pizza Hut owners. Don't hang out with the guys and ladies that it failed for them. They can just go commiserate at the bar and tell you why it's not going to work for you either, and don't get into it. Hang out with the guys or ladies that are out there doing things and that they're trying and they're building it up and they've experienced all these things. And by the way, parents, great people to learn from. They've been through most everything. I learned that from my dad's 80 something now, and I still learn things from them. So wealth of knowledge everywhere out there that you can learn from, and what works and what doesn't work, and then get started. So yeah, you're going to run into the negative experiences. I can tell you horror stories from this week from real estate. All the families that we take care of, our property folks and whatnot, you show up and a place has been trashed. I'd like to say one more thing. It's like stocks. And I think it's just a great example. And you can pick gold and silver and businesses and whatever you pick. If you buy 10 stocks, almost certainly statistically, 1 or 2 are going to be awesome. Most are going to be in the middle. You're hoping most are going to be towards the top. That's what you hire the guys that know about stocks for, the guys that know about real estate, the guys that know about gold and silver. But you're going to get that 1 or 2 that aren't so hot. And renters are the same way. Properties are the same way. We buy 10. There's going to be 2 that are probably going to be the elephants in the room that you need to turn them over or do something with. We interview 10 people to put in a rental. They check out awesome, just like that stock checked out awesome. And guess what? After a couple months, they stop paying and you have to evict them, or they trash the house. And it just comes with the business. My dad says it just comes with the business. Take it. Don't let that one get you down. Just keep moving on. And remember, all your other stocks are doing well and you're gradually growing. So,
Tim, is there any references that you can tell us about that we could learn from? And do you have any books that you would recommend?
You know what, I see we're already running out of time, and maybe we'll have to do this longer next time. There's so many things to talk about, and it's just such an exciting business. And I brought a couple with me that I had my students read. Hey, can you see that one? Who Moved My Cheese? This is an old one, an oldie but a goodie. I'll tell you what, I had probably easily 5,000 students at Notre Dame. I had made this a summer required reading before they'd have to take my class. It's about some mice that get stuck in a maze and they're just stuck in their ways. So it'll take you about 1 or 2 hours to read this book. It's a little thin story, only on one side. It's by Spencer Johnson, and it's about these 4 mice, and some don't move and some do, and somebody takes a chance and opens up a whole new world for them. That kind of gets you started, like, why do I even need to do something different? This is a classic. So this is one where I learned the most from. Now it's 10 or 20 years old. Rich Dad, Poor Dad still applies. Robert Kiyosaki. I've probably got all of his books. He's one of my favorite authors that I read a lot about because it's a style that I like. You're going to find that your own style is different and what you like is different. Another time we'll talk about all the different kinds of styles that are out there in real estate. Last one, the book on rental property investing. Okay, this is from Bigger Pockets and Brandon Turner. Rental Property Investing. So awesome book. This is very close to our style, what we do today. We buy properties. And again, we'll talk about that next time. Get in a little bit deeper. I hope you join us.
Yep. And did you want to take questions today, or did you want to go ahead and?
I'm open for questions, but I see
Okay.
we're up to our time.
Okay.
Will it turn
We'll
off on
have-
us automatically, or
No,
will
it
go?
won't. But if there's any questions real quick, we can answer those questions. If not, you can see us in the future. We'll be making more videos, and you guys can have a great day.
Do we have any questions?
Hold on. Oh, we see. Hi, good to hear you. Thanks, Tim. Great. It was great having you guys on here too. So we will talk to you guys and have another live Facebook feed again. And you guys have a good day.